So one of the things that I read, which is interesting for me, was you talk about the interdisciplinary learning you had from different industries.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
how important is it for an engineer, Sri, for the interdisciplinary learning?
yeah. I think it is very important. A lot of times when you go to a new plant, engineers there working in that site 20 years, 30 years, knowing everything about it. I'll give you an example. There was an application in one plant. I won't name the plants. I don't want to embarrass anyone. Um, so the process is before you can make a product, you have to oil the part so it doesn't stick to the mold. Um, so seems like a simple thing, but they have people manually doing this work, oiling the pot, and it's a waste of talent. You're putting a guy. It's not a value-added function.
Mm.
He's standing there as a long hose with a metal wand at the end as a nozzle and sprays oil, and he's just going through. It's like making dosa in India. You oil it, and you look like but every time I see it on YouTube, it's fascinating how it comes off. Same thing if you're making an aerospace parts, you're oiling it. Um, and one of the mandate I had was to automate this process. And it can be easily done. I can put a robot in, and I can teach it, and it will do that all day, every day. So,
Mm.
uh, a robot will cost anywhere from $20 to $100,000. An employee, on those days it was $100,000 per employee. Uh, when you're working in a union shop, it's very hard to replace an employee because they're losing an employment, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's one of the challenges. My point to them is, look, I could use that person. And the data has shown every time you did an automation, um, it allowed the companies to expand and hire more people. Uh,
Mm.
People think automation, you will lose employment. No, if a company is successful and if they're making profit, they're going to expand. They're going to hire more people. That's what I have seen. There may be instances where automation replaces people, but when you dig deeper, there are other issues why the companies couldn't sustain and they did what they did. They closed up and things like that. But a well-run company, automation actually enhances and makes them more productive and expand. The private companies I worked, in the two companies I worked in my career, they were always like that. They always expanded even with the automation. So
Okay.
his thing was the feedback from the shop floor was, well, you cannot automate this oiling process because the oiling is an art form and it's in the movement of the wrist. And that's a mindset, the cultural issue you run into. Not being in other industries, you don't see how even a more complicated process than that is being automated.
Mm.
They have robots, they can put a screw in an iPhone.
Mm.
If they can do that, I'm pretty sure you can automate an oiling in a pot. So that's why it's important for engineers. And this comment, it's in the wrist movement, came from an engineer. So that's why it is important, tying all that back to see different industries, have that wide experience and have an open mind. It's like a traveling, right? When you travel, you see different things and your mind expands.
Here, Sridhar talks about the importance of interdisciplinary thinking, learning from other industries. If you're steeped in one industry, uh, it could be IT, it could be software, it could be banking, it could be, mutual funds, it could be insurance, it could be, healthcare. When you're steeped in an industry, you pretty much get into a cognitive bias of saying, you know what, here is the way it gets done here, this is the way to do it. But when you want to transform a digital process, what's important is to look at adjacent industries, different industries, how they've solved the problem, learn from them, and then start to apply it back in these processes. The other important point that he makes is the fact that automation increases more jobs. That's a very, very interesting perspective because there's a lot of furor, there's a lot of issues around, you're trying to automate this, we're going to keep losing jobs. But the important takeaway that I see from what he's saying is that when you try to automate, you pretty much start looking at the company handling its demand far more efficiently, far more better. The businesses start doing well, and therefore it gives more jobs to people. Therefore, what is important is to look at how automation can transform certain skills, and therefore the need to constantly upgrade yourself to the new skills that may be required when an automation happens is something to think about.